don't know me, I am a teacher here. I teach U.S. History and AP World. So the book I decided on was The Kite Runner. It's actually been a while since I read it. It's been about 10 years. I think I read it in between then, but it was a while ago. And the reason that I read this book in the first place is when I went to Michigan State, they do this thing called, what do they call it? One book, one community, I think is what they call it. And all incoming freshmen are asked to read the same book. And this was the book my freshman year. And then like welcome week, as all the freshmen are moving to campus, they do different events surrounding the book. So actually the author came to Michigan State that year and talked a little bit, but I didn't go see it. Just a quick summary of this book. First of all, has anyone actually read this book? Okay, so a quick summary. It starts in Afghanistan, and the main character, Amir, he and his father, it kind of follows their lives. And one of Amir's best friends, Hassan, kind of lives with them. His dad is kind of like a male maid. He takes care of the family. And one of the kind of big changes is something happens to Hassan, and it's because of something Amir didn't do. He doesn't really have the courage to step in when this thing happens to Hassan. I don't want to give it away if you're interested in reading the book. And he feels so guilty about it, Amir does, that he ends up planting something under Hassan's bed. And Hassan admits that he stole these things from Amir even though he didn't. And he and his father end up moving. And that's kind of like this turning point for Amir. Actually, not really a turning point. He continues to kind of live life this way, and then later it kind of comes back to him. So he ends up moving to America, he and his father, because there's a lot of history in Afghanistan, but you don't have to know that history to enjoy the book. And they end up leaving because there's a lot of violence in Afghanistan. There's a civil war, and they move to the United States. He gets married, and an old family friend calls Amir and tells him he needs to come to Pakistan, which is where this friend is, and tells him that Hassan had a son, and reveals to him that Hassan was actually Amir's brother, that Amir's dad had actually birthed, whatever, I'm not going to get into all that, but anyways, he was his father. And he and his wife passed away, and they have a son, and the son is now an orphan. So he ends up going on this journey to save the orphan, and there's some violence involved in that, and they're able to bring the son back, and they save him. So that's kind of the little summary of the book, but I wanted to leave out some details because if you're interested in reading it, then you don't want me to give it away. People who are interested in reading this book, I really like history because that's what I teach, but you don't have to like history to enjoy this book. But if that is something you're interested in, this leads to a lot of curiosity about Afghanistan. You can do, just some Googling to learn a little bit more about that. But if you like really just a good story, I think probably one of the biggest things is courage. That's what Amir lacks. And that's kind of the issue between him and his father, is his father knows he doesn't have that courage and kind of almost looks down upon Amir. So in the end, Amir kind of proves that he has that courage. So the passage that I decided to share with you is right after Amir witnesses something happening to Hassan, and he does not step in to save Hassan. And then because of this guilt, he then plants these items of watching some money under Hassan's pillow. And that's kind of where I'm going to pick up. They'd both been crying. I could tell from their red, puffed up eyes. They stood before Baba, hand in hand, and I wondered how and when I'd become capable of causing this kind of pain. Baba came right out and asked, "Did you steal that money? Did you steal Amir's watch, Hassan?" Hassan's reply was a single word, delivered in a thin, raspy voice. "Yes." I flinched like I'd been slapped. My heart sank and I almost blurted out the truth. Then I understood. This was Hassan's final sacrifice for me. If he'd said no, Baba would have believed him, because we all knew Hassan never lied. And if Baba believed him, then I'd be the accused. I would have to explain, and I would be revealed for what I really was. Baba would never, ever forgive me, and that led to another understanding. Hassan knew. He knew I'd seen everything in that alley, that I'd stood there and done nothing. He knew I had betrayed him, and yet he was rescuing me once again, maybe for the last time. I loved him in that moment, loved him more than I'd ever loved anyone, and I wanted to tell them all that I was the snake in the grass, the monster in the lake. I wasn't worthy of this sacrifice. I was a liar, a cheat, and a thief, and I would have told, except that a part of me was glad that this would all be over with soon. Baba would dismiss them, there would be some pain, but life would go on. I wanted that, to move on, to forget, to start with a clean slate. I wanted to be able to breathe again. Except Baba stunned me by saying, I forgive you. Forgive, but theft was the one unforgivable sin, the common denominator of all sins. When you kill a man, you steal a life. You steal his wife's right to a husband, rob his children of a father. When you tell a lie, you steal someone's right to the truth. When you cheat, you steal the right to fairness. There is no act more wretched than stealing. Hadn't Baba sat me on his lap and said those words to me, then how could he just forgive Hassan? And if Baba could forgive that, then why could he forgive me for not being the son he'd always wanted? So again, that just kind of fits into the story, especially with the whole courage thing. He doesn't have the courage to speak up, and so he does this awful thing to Hassan, and Hassan just goes along with it, and that's the kind of friend he was. And then the one thing I didn't mention is the name of the book comes from kind of a pastime of theirs in Afghanistan. They run kites, they put glass on the string, and then they have to try to cut them into other kites. And they've just won that kind of competition, and Hassan goes to find the last kite, and that's when this awful thing happens to him that Amir doesn't stop. So that's the Kite Runner.
Awesome.